Hello my crafty friends, this is Monica. Welcome back to my channel. In previous video I showed you how to amend my free laptop bag pattern to add a divider zipper pocket. In this lesson I'm going to show you how to assemble that pocket and attach it to your bag. So gather your supplies and let's get started. Before I show you how to create and add your divider pocket to your laptop bag, make sure to prep your external pieces as per the original sewing instructions. So what you want to do is to have the front and the back panels assembled. So this is exactly what I've done. I have my slip pocket on the front, zipper pocket on the back. I stabilized those two pieces. And I also basted the lining on the back. Then you want to make sure you have your zipper casing ready. And also stabilize your external gusset. To make your divider zipper pocket, you'll need to cut 4 divider pieces from your lining fabric, 2 gusset linings from your lining fabric, and also 2 zipper tabs from your lining fabric. You'll also need a zipper of your choice. I'm using number 5 continuous zipper, which I'm going to cut later on to the required size. And I also have 1 zipper pull, which I'll add to my zipper later on. First, we're going to prep our zipper. So to find the correct length for your zipper, what you want to do is to take your divider piece and deduct 4 centimeters from the overall width of your panel. So what you want to do is to have a zipper, if like me you are using a continuous zipper, your zipper needs to be 4 centimeters shorter than the overall width of your divider. So what I like to do is to take a pen and measure 2 centimeters on one side. I make a little notch and I do exactly the same thing on the other side. Mark a little notch. So now I can take my zipper, and what you want is to make sure you have nice straight edges. So I'm going to cut this zipper so it is nice and straight. You can use a lighter to just burn those edges to prevent them from fraying. And now, using those notches, you can measure your zipper. So I'm going to place the edge of my zipper at the notch, and then I'm going to mark the zipper at the other notch, and that's where I'm going to cut my zipper. So now I'm going to take my scissors and cut my zipper. Again, I'm going to burn the edges, but first let me make this nice and straight. Here we go. If like me you are using a continuous zipper, now you can add your zipper pull. Next, you can take your zipper tab pieces and take them to the pressing station, because we're going to fold 2 edges wrong sides together towards the center. If like me you are using fabric that you cannot really press, what you can do is to use a double-sided tape instead. So apply double-sided tape on both sides, just like that. If you want, you can draw a line in the center. Otherwise, you're going to peel off that plastic cover, fold your edge towards the center, and then do that on the other side as well. Here we go. You're going to do exactly the same thing on the other zipper tab. Then you need to take your zipper, And what we're going to do is to wrap our zipper tab around both sides of our zipper. So you're going to basically wrap your zipper tab around the end of your zipper on one side, and then you're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. Use a couple of clips to hold everything in place. Then when you are ready, go ahead and top stitch along the edge of your zipper tab on both sides of your zipper. So what you want to do is to make sure you catch the zipper tab underneath. So if you have to readjust it, realign it, make sure those two folded edges are aligned, and then top stitch about 2 millimeters from the edge. Next, you want to trim your zipper tab to the same width as your zipper. So this is what I've done on one side. So simply grab your scissors and trim any excess, just like that. Next, you're going to take your divider and place your zipper facing down on top of it and line it up along the top edge. So since I have my notches marked, I can use them as a guideline to simply center my zipper. However, if you didn't mark those two notches, make sure to mark midpoints along the divider and your zipper, and then match them up to ensure your zipper is nice and centered. Then you want to line up the edges and clip or pin them together. Now we're going to take this to the machine and baste the zipper along the top edge. Now you're going to take another divider piece. This one will be inside your pocket. So just in case if you are using different fabrics, this is going to be your pocket inside. And place it on top. So right sides are facing each other. You're going to line up the top edge. And again, you can pin or clip those pieces together. Just like that. Then take this to the machine and sew the seam. Now you can take this to the pressing station, separate your pieces and press the seam nice and flat. Since I cannot press my fabric, I'm just going to use my seam roller to create a crease in the fabric. There we go. Then you're going to bring those pieces wrong sides together. Again, press the seam nice and flat. When you are ready, go ahead and take this to the machine. Top stitch along the finished seam and then baste along those remaining edges. So now you're going to grab those two remaining divider pieces and repeat the steps on the other side of your zipper. Here we go. This is how it should look like. So now you're going to fold your divider in half, just like that. So make sure your zipper is on top and the right side of your zipper is visible. So don't fold it like this because you won't be able to open your zipper. So bring the lining pieces, the inner portion of your pocket, together. So those two pieces need to face each other. Your zipper is on top. Then you're going to line up the edges and clip them together. So start at the top, line up the top edge, line up your sides, clip them together. Do that on the other side as well. And then you want to line up the edges and clip it around all sides. Here we go. Then we're going to take this to the machine and baste those edges together. If you haven't done so yet, make sure to mark midpoint along the bottom edge of your divider. So to do that, simply fold your divider pocket in half. Then you can mark it with a pen or pencil or use scissors and cut a little notch in the fabric, just like that. You want to do that on your lining gusset as well. So fold your gusset pieces in half and mark your midpoints. So you want to do that on both sides. Now you're going to take one of your gusset pieces and place it on top of your divider. So right sides are facing each other. Match your midpoints. Line up the edges and clip them together. And then line up the gusset around the entire edge. So what you want to do is to have 1.5 centimeter tail that goes above the edge of your divider. So I'm going to take my ruler, measure 1.5 centimeters and line up my gusset, just like that. Then I can line up the edges. If you have to, snip your gusset around those curved corners, so it's easier for you to line up the edges. Just like that. Line them up and clip everything together. Here we go. You're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. So again, I'm going to measure 1.5 centimeters and line up my gusset on top. Clip the gusset around the curved corner. And line up the edges. Here we go. Next, we're going to take this to the machine and we're going to sew the seam. grab your other gusset piece and line it up on the other side of your divider. So again, match your midpoints, line up the edges, clip them together, and line up the gusset around the edge of your divider. Again, you want to make sure you have 1.5 centimeter tail, so just make sure to match it with the one that is underneath. Clip it. Snip the gusset around the curved corners. And line up the edges. Next, you can take this to the machine and sew the seam. When you are at the machine, be careful about the gusset underneath. So make sure to keep it out of the way so it doesn't fold and you don't stitch it by accident and create ugly pleats and folds. So just take your time at the machine. If you want, you can use pins or clips to just keep everything nice and flat, but since I don't really want to pierce this fabric, I'm going to take my time at the machine and readjust my fabric as I sew. Double check if you don't have any pleats on both sides. Then when you are happy with everything, you can take this to the pressing station, open the seam allowance and press them nice and flat. You want to make sure your seam is nice and flat, because when your bag is constructed, you don't want those seam allowance to stick out. Otherwise, your bag will not look nice inside and your lining will not look nice and neat. So what I like to do is to open the seam allowance, press it flat, and then trim the seam allowance by half. But since I cannot really press this fabric, what I'm going to do instead is to flip one of my gussets out. So one is going to lay flat against the divider. The other one I'm going to pull out, and then I'm going to top stitch close to that finished seam, catching the seam allowance underneath. So when my bag is finished, the seam allowance will face to one side and it will lay nice and flat. And then I'm going to trim any excess of seam allowance. So that's what I'm going to do for this sample. Go ahead and trim your seam allowance down. So I like to use pinking shears for that. And just trim the seam allowance as close as I can to the stitching, especially around those curved corners. So just take your time. Now you can take your zipper casing, and what we're going to do is to line up the lining side of your casing on top of the lining gusset. So you will need to keep the divider out of the way, and that's why we have left a little tail so we can line up those two pieces together. So take your zipper casing, line up the lining side on top of your gusset, clip those two pieces together, Here we go. Then you're going to do exactly the same thing on the other side. So make sure your casing and your divider is not twisted. You want to make sure it is nice and flat. Again, keep the divider out of the way and line up the edge of your casing on top. So this can be a little bit awkward, so just take your time. Line up the edges, clip them together. Here we go. So this is how it should look like. You have your gusset and your casing clipped together. Next, we're going to take this to the machine and we're going to baste our zipper casing to the gusset along those two shorter edges. So using about 5mm seam allowance, we're going to sew those two seams. If you have to, change your regular presser foot to a zipper foot, so it is easier to sew the seam. This is how it should look like. So I've got those two pieces basted. I've got my divider in between. So next you're going to take your external gusset, place it on top of your zipper casing. So you want to make sure everything is nice and flat. So again, keep the divider out of the way. You want to place your gusset on top. So right sides are facing each other. Line up those shorter edges and clip them together. Here we go. So basically your zipper casing is in between your external gusset and your lining gusset. So exactly the same as per original sewing instructions. The only difference is that now we have that divider zipper pocket in between. So line up the other side in exactly the same way. So again, you want to keep the divider out of the way. Place your gusset on top, right sides together, line up the edges and clip them together. Here we go. After that, you can take this to the machine and we're going to sew those two seams. Once you've got those two seams stitched, bring the gusset pieces wrong sides together. So you want to flip your external gusset like this. Line up the lining and external gusset pieces together. And then clip them around those two sides. What you want to do next, if you have a space, if you made your divider slightly shorter and you have a space, you can pull the divider down and top stitch along those two finished seams. But since I kept my divider as tall as I could, I'm going to skip this step because I don't really have a space for top stitching. Then you want to baste those two pieces of your gusset. So when you have just clipped everything, you're going to baste those two pieces together on one side and then on the other side. I've got that basted. So now what you want to do is to assemble your laptop bag as per sewing instructions. So since we've added this divider pocket, it can be a little bit tricky. But what you want to do is to line up your gusset and your front panel right sides together. So make sure you have midpoints marked. Then what you want to do is to flip this over so you can line up the right sides together. So you're going to have to maneuver the fabric a little bit because this part is a little bit tricky since we've added that divider. You're going to line up your midpoints, line up your edges, clip everything together. Then you're going to sew the seam and then trim the seam allowance by half and finish the edges with bias binding. So I'm not going to show you how to do it because you've got all the informations in the sewing instructions and also in my video tutorial where I show you how to assemble your laptop bag. So check it out if you need some help. I'm going to show you how it looks like when it's finished. As you can see, I've got my laptop bag assembled. So I stitched the front and back panels to the gusset and I finished the seams with bias binding. So this is how it looks like inside. And here we have our divider zipper pocket. Give your bag a final press. Otherwise, this project is now finished. Well done! Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, make sure to subscribe to my channel for similar content. See you next time. Stay crafty, friends. Bye.